Alright. That should about do that. Hey guys, hey, it's me, it's Tech. Tech Turncoat. How you guys doing? That was a good time to have, that was a good time for that music to have ended. It's a nice... Although it did mean that I had to, like, start just a little bit early, but that's fine. Hey. I was doing my, my every pre-stream scroll through Twitter distractedly. Did you guys know that there was a Kingdom Hearts 2 novelization? And then there's like 4 volumes of it? What? I didn't... Okay. It very easily sounds like it could be like some AO3 stuff. But like apparently it's real? I didn't Okay, before I go around saying shit like that, I should probably look it up myself. But I'm not going to do that right now. Well, I might be able to do that, but I'm not going to. Anything important to say? Not really. I finally got around to doing... Okay. I was going to talk about it on Friday/Sunday, but fuck it, I might as well do it right now. So I the other day, last Sunday, I believe, I uploaded the Of the Devil episode that didn't get streamed, but I had like saved. And I didn't think anything of it. I stopped thinking about the videos as soon as I put them out. But I noticed when I was setting up the stream for... When I was thinking about setting up the stream for Monday, or some other time, I was looking at something else. I don't know. I don't remember. But I was looking at how good it was doing. Like I happened to see the views that it was getting. It was like 14 video. Like, listen. With the size I'm at, 14 is actually quite a lot, especially when they just released it like, I don't know, 2 days ago. But when I saw it, I was like, wow, that's surprisingly a lot. So I went to go see if that kind of trickled over to any of the other ones, because it didn't make sense otherwise to me personally. Only to see that, like, no, people were kind of watching that one. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Is this... So this leads me to the question: do more people see these / pay attention to them if I just upload them solid as videos and not like leave them as streams? Because like, okay, to me, there's very little difference between like a live stream on YouTube and like, hey, I uploaded the recording of the stream as a video, which is what that was. There's to me, there's little difference, especially since I'm not editing them. But I don't know. Sometimes it'll happen where just like randomly a video that a stream that I've done gets like a huge kick in views, and I just have to take that as it is. I don't know. Especially since I really like Of the Devil. It's just really good. Yeah. Maybe I'll upload the next maybe I'll upload the next session as a solid video too. Who knows? Whatever. Anyway, I only vaguely remember what happened last time, which is the Holy Night. But I'm gonna dive in because I don't need to remember everything. Continue. Oh shit! It saved it. I may have done a little peek-see ahead, but not by much. Interesting. It's very fascinating. Get some water. Also, like a friend was showing everybody Paralives, this new Sims game that came out. I don't know. It's apparently pretty big, but I mean, it's like The Sims. I don't know. I was never a big Sims guy. Well, no, I guess I wasn't the crowd. It was mostly for like younger women of my age. Anyway, The truth was, however, Alice had been in a bad mood all morning. After checking all the sigils around Misaki City and boarding the first train back from Tokawa, all she wanted to do was spend the rest of her day reading until the words turned into a jumble. Her iron resolve to complete this task would only be interrupted by someone else milling about the drawing room. This was her mansion, and there was no way she was going to lock herself up in her room on account of Soujyuro. However, that said, she knew it would be wrong to kick Soujyuro out for no real reason. As it stood, Soujyuro had actually kept quiet, like she'd asked. He wasn't in the wrong here. If Alice had really wanted to be alone, she should have just gone to her room.
Should
have told him to leave me alone instead of just telling him to be quiet. Alice had defiantly stayed in the drawing room despite realizing the dilemma she'd put herself in. She'd figured Soujyuro would eventually make a ruckus and run off to hide in his attic room. Her assumption could not have been more wrong. Soujyuro never left the drawing room. Moreover, she had actually stopped caring that he was there. Though he hadn't paid her any attention, he hadn't ignored her either. They'd simply sat in silence together without any awkwardness. That's nice. Alice felt the freedom of being alone, along with the comfort of someone being by her side. Put it into words, Soujyuro was just that kind of person. That was probably the only reason Alice had been able to sleep so soundly with him next to her. There next to her. Soujyuro continued cooking in the kitchen, oblivious to the thoughts that went through Alice's head. She couldn't see him from the drawing room, but she could easily imagine him cooking in the kitchen. He really is strange. Alice resumed reading after unwittingly stating her feelings out loud a second time. The sunlight beaming into the drawing room showed that it was noon. The sunlight actually looked warm, despite being a cloudy winter day. Just as noon struck, Soujyuro returned to the drawing room with 2 sets of plates. Some food of an indescribable color was piled on a large, cream-colored plates. Oh, fuck, it's doing the thing again. Fuck. Finish loading already. My computer doesn't like when you do that. Ah! Gonna skip through and read it later. Although I will say it sounds like it's supposed to be disgusting, but it looks pretty good. I mean, it just looks like normal stir fry to me. God, finish up, please. It's still kind of weird. Hold on. Why is it still acting like it's... Oh, gosh. There we go. What is this? Oh, okay, hold on. So food of indescribable color, placed on large cream-colored plates. This is... She hadn't expected much. And since she also didn't request anything, she couldn't just refuse it if it was something she didn't want. But this food left her at a loss of words despite psyching herself up. What is this? Alice spoke as though she was terrified of what had been placed in front of her. Huh? I just put some... Oh, shit. I just put some stuff on top of some stir-fried udon noodles. Oh, this one moves and you're fine with it. Fine. If Alka had been there, she probably would have punched him. But Soujyuro just confidently placed the 2 large plates on the table. Steam billowed from the mountain of food like an angry volcano ready to erupt at any moment. The thick, mystery sauce flowed over the plates as magma might from said eruption. And below it all were a seemingly infinite number of slimy, tentacle-like noodles. There's really nothing more to say about it. This was clearly the food of a poor, struggling student who favored quantity over quality. All that was required was a basic recipe, the will to cook something, and what few ingredients were needed. I feel somewhat insulted, but you're the gourmet here. The pile of stir-fried noodles with the sauce splattered on top was so horrifically bad it was almost an art form. It was a bachelor's cooking, if she'd ever seen it. There really was nothing else you could call it. She had wondered what he was doing for an hour in there, and it turned out he'd been making this sauce. No sauce would have been fine, but Soujyuro had wholeheartedly gone the extra mile. Soujyuro bowed his head slightly and picked up his chopsticks. He had brought a fork for Alice. She picked up the fork and stuck it into the noodles, half drowning in sauce. It sounds good to me. I don't know what you're up to. Soujyuro began eating, not seeming to care that Alice sat there looking like she was about to eat poison. Seeming to view this as a challenge, Alice furrowed her brow and slowly brought the massive noodles to her mouth. It was a little salty and ugly to look at, but it didn't taste all that bad. If anything, it was actually pretty good.
一つ聞きたいんだけど。
So hey, I kind of wanted to ask you something. Soujyuro put down his chopsticks and turned to speak to Alice.
実際の話、魔術師の話はともかくとして、青崎はまだ誰にも手を出してないんじゃないか。
Be honest with me. Mage or not, Aozaki hasn't actually killed anyone yet, has she? Alice looked up quietly at the sudden question. She had been inspecting Sojuro's meal, but now she looked straight at him.
おかしなことを聞くのね、しずきくんは。
It's a rather odd question, Suzuki.
アリスには悪いけど、これは青崎本人には聞きようのないことだから、言いたくなければ答えないでくれ。
Yeah, I know. I hate to ask you, but it's not really something I feel comfortable asking Aozaki directly. If you don't want to answer, you don't have to. Alice didn't respond. Soja resumed eating, not seeming disappointed. Alice stared blankly at him, slurping noodles. After much hesitation, she replied.
しずきくんの言う通り、青子はまだ人を殺したことはないわ。
No. It's just as you said. Aoka hasn't killed anyone yet.
その行為自体は何回かこなしてはいるけれど。
She has been involved in that sort of thing multiple times, though. Alice's response was slow and measured. Soujyuro still looked troubled. Sanny. But not at the conversation they were having. Rather, he looked apologetic towards Alice. He said she didn't have to answer if she didn't want to. But Alice kept talking despite the face he was making.
しずきくんが見た公園での出来事が青子にとって初めての殺人行為を。あいにく相手は人形だったけど。
That day you saw us in the park was the first time Aoko had ever killed anything. It was just a puppet, though. Soujyuro silently nodded. Alice narrowed her eyes at him suspiciously.
まるで初めから分かっていたそぶりね。
It almost seems like you knew all this from the beginning.
そうじゃな。いや、そうなのかな。
No, not... maybe.
たまにその手のセリフを言うけど、何か違う気がしたんだ。だから多分、青崎はまだ人殺しというのを体験していないんじゃないかって。
She just says stuff like that sometimes, but it's never really felt like she's ever actually killed anyone before.
でもまあ、そんなことよりもっと確かなのは。
But more than that, I guess the best evidence is
しずきくんが今生きているということね。
the fact that you're still alive. Soujyuro chuckled at Alice's stellar response. I like the detail, by the way. This used to be just like wrapped bandages. Now it's actually his little choker that they got for him. That's fun. And it's such a small change in his character design, but it's like, yes, this is different. Soujyuro chuckled at Alice's stellar response. Exactly. Things would have been more clear-cut that night if Aoko had actually killed someone before. Soujyuro would have been dead before he even saw her face. For better or worse, Aoko remained inexperienced in spite of her ruthlessness and decisiveness. Little mini sneeze. Soujyuro relaxed his shoulders. His stern face gradually returned to its normal carefree state. Then...
でもそんなことは関係ないわ。
But even so, none of that really
あ
matters.
の子はそのあたりが異常だから。行為は理性に、経験は知識でたやすく補ってしまう。
That's just the way she is. She acts with reason and uses her knowledge to make up for any inexperience she might have.
そうね。青子はその気になれば迷うことなく人の命に手を出せる。しずきくん風に言うのならだけど。
Ziggy, I think if she really felt like it, she could take another person's life, as you so put it. And with that, Alice went back to twirling noodles around her fork. She looks like she's having fun, Soujyuro thought, as he ruminated over what she just said. She was rational enough to accept herself despite acting against society's morals, and possessed of an intellect that exceeded even the confidence gained through experience. Had Aoko been raised to utilize her logic and reason to forge reality from fiction? If that was the case, then perhaps they really were different from Soujyuro.
すまない。こんなことを聞いたのは青崎には内緒にしておいてくれないか。
I'm sorry. Can you please not tell Ozaki that I asked you this? Soujyuro seemed serious, as if he really regretted asking. Alice's expression remained unchanged, but she never intended on saying anything to Aoko anyway.
ありがとう。なんだかアリスには内緒話ばかり溜まっていくね。
Thank you. I'm not sure why, but I seem to have a lot of secret conversations with you. Soujyuro went back to eating his food. Though Alice had still only had a single bite, he was already scraping his clean.
そういえば青崎にも聞いたんだけど、アリスと青崎はいつもああなのか？
You know, I already asked Ozaki this, but did the two of you always get along like this? Soujyuro had suddenly decided to change the topic of conversation. His new topic was the rather cold and dry relationship between Aoko and Alice. Aoko said their relationship was normal, but maybe Aoko had a different opinion. Sorry, Alice had a different opinion.
会話が少ないことを言っているのならそうなるわ。
If you're talking about how we rarely talk to each other, that's just what happens.
けど別に不便じゃないから。
It's convenient. It isn't something that bothers us. Alice was still twirling noodles with her fork as she gave her concise answer. Around and around the noodles went, but none made it into her mouth.
不便じゃないって、そういうの仲がいいって言わないんじゃないのか。
What do you mean it's convenient? Do you mean that you're like friends or?
私と青子の仲が良くないとしずきくんは困るの？
Would it make things difficult for you if we didn't get along? Soujyuro swallowed his words at Alice's perplexed reply. It would, actually, but he wasn't sure how to respond when she asked so directly.
いや、なんかこっちの考え方が悪かったみたいだ。もうその話題には触れないことにしたから忘れてくれ。
No, maybe I'm just thinking about it the wrong way. I promise I won't bring it up again. Just forget I asked.
それより、アリス。
More importantly, Alice. Soujyuro gave Alice a piercing stare that was more intense than any time they'd talked before. Alice was taken slightly aback at the unusually intense look in his eyes. Do you not like what I made? Her face became slightly flushed out of nervousness. Nobody besides Aoko had ever stared at her like this before. Whether or not he noticed, Soujyuro waited for a few moments before speaking slowly and with complete conviction.
それ、食べないなら欲しいんだけど。
If you're not going to eat that, do you mind if I have it? An awkward silence followed.
悪いけどこれ私のだから。
Sorry, this is mine. Suzuki had cooked it, sure, but Alice wasn't wrong. He made it for her, after all. There was a slight tinge of anger in her voice, but even she wasn't sure why it was there.
そうだね。少し意地汚かった。
Yeah, you're right. Sorry, shouldn't have asked. Soujyuro plopped himself down on the sofa. This must have looked particularly pathetic to Alice, and she responded with,
その材料はもう残ってないの？
Are there any ingredients left to cook some more? She quickly covered her mouth. Apparently, she'd surprised even herself. It was quite unusual for her to ask something like that.
残ってないよ。青崎の分も作っちゃったから。
Nah, used everything, and made a little bit for Aozaki as well. Soujyuro stared a bit regretfully at Alice's plate as he responded. Alice could have just let it go, but for some reason she felt she needed to speak up again.
青子なら眠っているけど。
But Aoka's just sleeping.
いや、もうすぐ起こすから。起きた後で作らされるより一緒に作っておいた方が楽だしね。
Yeah, but I'm gonna wake her up soon. And she'd have told me to make her something anyway.
と、もうすぐ1時か。ちょうどいい。行って起こしてくるよ。
Speaking of which, it's almost 1. I'll go wake her up now. Jesus, she's still sleeping at 1.
起こしたら殺すって言ってたけど。
Didn't she say she'd kill you if you woke up? Alice wasn't sure why Soujyuro was willing to take such a risk. Soujyuro agreed, but started walking anyway.
でもさ、今起こしておかないと やっぱり後で殺される運命にあると思うんだ。
Yeah, maybe. But I don't know. But I feel like if I don't wake her up now, she's going to end up killing me later anyway. His words were surprisingly affectionate. Leaving Alice with only that, Soujyuro headed to Aoko's room. Alice watched him leave in silence before taking another bite of the stir-fried noodles. Glancing at the door in the hallway to make sure nobody was coming, she took another bite. She repeated that process many times before finishing her food. It was then that she heard Aoko's wrath coming from the second floor. Alice stood up and began solemnly clearing the table, feeling a bit sorry for what Soujyuro was dealing with. She knew she didn't really have to, but she felt like it was the least she could do for him. She never really expected to feel this way. But he'd cooked for her, and it was surprisingly good. Almost enough to make her forget how bad he was at making tea. Scar red. Interesting. We're just going to... Where's the mouse? There it is. These are all clean? Shit. How about here? Okay. This is where I'm going to start saving now, because I'm losing the plot here. And sometimes I want to go back and see what's going on. Next. December, the month when even monks were busy at work. It was the accumulation of that year. Perhaps, due to all the put-off tasks built up through the seasons, the month always seemed to pass by in the blink of an eye. It was a day like any other in December. Scar red. Though none of them were any the wiser to what the others were doing, Aoko, Alice, and Soujyuro had spent the day attending to their own affairs.
Nani? Kore.
What is this? Aoko kept the urge to kill out of her voice, but a menacing tone still reverberated in the room. The sunroom was often used to dine when the weather was nice, since it overlooked the courtyard. It was a room decorated with high-quality furniture and upholstery befitting this historic Western-style mansion. The fusion of Chinese Chippendale aesthetics and traditional English Georgian elegance caused even Aoko, a commoner, to think twice about doing anything unaristocratic on the grounds. Truthfully, she was sickened by the fragrant waste of money, but none of it was paid out of her pocket, so she could have cared less what the purchasers spent their money on. 3 unbelievably out-of-place offerings sat atop the lavish sunroom's table as if enshrined. Ooh. In stark contrast to the room, they appeared like meals prepared by aliens.
Soujyuro. これ、なんか新しい冗談。
Soujyuro? Is this your idea of a practical joke? Aoko's trembling fist clenched and unclenched as she questioned the one responsible for today's menu. The clock struck 9 in the evening. Jesus, they're eating late. Tonight's executive chef nodded dutifully, eager to explain.
これはうちの会社の新
He's
製
doing
品。
that dumb expression again. It's a new product from my
パ
workplace.
チモン臭いが中身は本当にパチモンだと木の実が言ってた。でも俺は本物よりいいと思う。
You know he says that it looks and tastes fake, but honestly, I think it's better than the real thing.
そんなことより評価すべきは社内販売なんで 1個40円を切る低価格だ。
Besides, they're only 40 yen each after the company discount.
すごいぞ。卵をつけても60円とか。
Deal, right? Even with the egg on top, it's still only 60 yen or so. The corner-cutting chef seemed pleased with himself. Ako wanted to grumble that the real steal was her appetite.
そう、よかったわね。
Well, isn't that nice for you?
ところで、今日の夕飯はどこにあるの？
Now where's tonight's dinner? Chef Soujyuro thought for a second or two, then clapped his hands together in realization.
青崎、そんなに食べると太るよ。
Oh, brother, you shouldn't say that. Okay. Azaki, you know if you eat too much, you'll get fat.
つまり、これが夕飯だって言い張る気なのね、あんたは。
So what you're telling me is, this slop is what you call dinner?
言い張るも何も、これ以外用意していない。
No complaints. I'm not making anything else. Two stood there glaring at each other. Aoko gave off an air that she would rather die than eat his food, while Soujyuro was convinced she would capitulate eventually. He even considered chiding her for being a picky eater. As usual, the two would not see eye to eye.
いや、私は食べないからね、こんなの。
No way. There's no way I'm eating whatever this is.
お姫様みたいなこと言うんじゃない。だいたい今日の夕食代はこれで3名様200円未満なんだぞ。
I heard Ohime-sama and I was like, ooh, he's going there. Don't be such a spoiled princess. Besides, tonight's dinner only costs 200 yen for the three of us. Soujyuro puffed his chest out at his penny-pinching prowess. Alice alternated her gaze between the two quarreling roommates and the strange food before her, which she had also never seen before. She remained a mere bystander in all of this.
信じられない。一人60円の食事って、あんた一体いつの生まれよ。
Unbelievable. A 60 yen meal for one person? What year is it?
このご時世、新しくできた牛丼屋ですら贅沢に原価上げてるわよ、バカ。
These days, even cheap people places spend more on ingredients.
青崎、1ヶ月の食費が3万円だけで、あんな好き勝手な食生活をしていたら、俺が君たちに殺される前に全員が飢え死ぬと思うんだ。
Aozaki, if we ate the way you wanted with only 30,000 yen for food each month, I'm pretty sure we would all starve to death before you two could kill me.
確かに、昨日のアリスの肉料理は素晴らしかった。
I mean, sure, the meat Alice cooked yesterday was really something.
グラム700円から肉は種類が変わるんだって感動した。
I was impressed at the difference in quality at 700 yen per ounce.
生協の果汁 100% ジュースだって、ちょっと本気でバカにできるもんじゃないと反省したよ。
Even the 100% juice from the co-op made me rethink the idea of fresh food.
けど、あれが3日続いたら、この家はどうなってしまうんだい？
But if we keep eating like we have for the last 3 days, we'll go broke. Soujyuro was making perfect sense, for once. Fortunately, neither Aoko nor Soujyuro noticed the silent stare of disapproval coming from Alice.
その時はその時よ。
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
それにね、昨日みたいなのはめったにないの。アリスはあんたの料理に触発されて、柄にもなく頑張ったみたいだけど。
And, I should note, a meal like yesterday was a rarity. But maybe I should thank you since your meals have inspired Alice to put some effort into hers for a change. With Ako's word, Alice closed her eyes. She might have been trying to quell her anger.
信じられない。じゃあ、今までどんな生活してたんだ、青崎たちは。
You astonish me, you know? How'd you even get by before me?
その時はそれぞれで何とかやってたわ。飢え死に一歩手前ぐらいいい精神修行じゃない。
We made it work, thank you very much. Besides, living life one step from starvation keeps you on your toes. Her brazen response left him speechless. Though a story for another time, Soujyuro remembered a warning from a certain vice president who had complained about a certain president incessantly bugging him to take her to lunch at the end of the month. But that was neither here nor there.
そんな昔のことより今のこと。
That was then, and this is now.
前に見せたあの腕はどこに行ったのよ、宗十郎。あれを見込んで今日の夕飯を任せたっていうのに。
Where were those cooking skills you displayed before, Soujyuro? That's the only reason I trusted you with today's meal. Out of everything, that seemed to be what ate at Aoko the most. The stir-fried yaki udon he had prepared previously had been very well received. It even melted away Aoko's morning grumpiness with just one bite. However, Soujyuro had not seen fit to tell him that it was one of the only dishes he had in his limited repertoire. For a bachelor, the ability to cook is as close to a superpower as one could get. It's very true. "15 years into the future, it would likely become a highly desirable trait." Regardless, that misunderstanding helped Aoko and Alice to overestimate Sojuro's culinary talents. Her ire finally made sense to Soujyuro.
わかった。自腹を切るから出前を取ろう。作るにしても材料がないからな。
Alright, fine. We can order in. Not allowed to cook here anyway.
その代わり、それは回収する。
But only if you clear up. Aoko basked in her victory. It was then, after seeing Sojuro's face as he went to fetch the delivery menu, Aoko realized her misreading of him. What annoyed Aoko the most was the fact that such little effort was put into dinner. But to Soujyuro, this dinner had not been about cutting corners, but rather a meal he legitimately wanted to try. Aoko ruminated how it could possibly pass as food for someone raised in the mountains. And then...
アリス、何してるの?
Alice, what are you doing? Aoko noticed Alice standing near the table, holding one of the bowls tightly.
もうそれはいいんだってば。
Would you put that down already?
宗十郎に返してきちんとした出前にしましょう。
I need to give those back to Soujyuro so we can eat something real. Despite Aoko's words, Alice stood her ground, firmly clutching the bowl. In fact, she seemed to be embracing it.
これ、私のだから。
This one's mine. They gave her a discreet sprite for it and everything. Alice's faint voice drifted across the sunroom. And just like that, the night's menu had been decided by majority rule. Aoko's shoulders sank in disappointment at her lot that evening. Come to think of it, Alice was always peculiar about the things she deemed hers. It was morning, and there were 10 days left in December. Wow. While the rest of the city was preparing for Christmas festivities, Soujyuro headed to his part-time job. Though it looked like it could snow at any minute, the tree-lined streets were busy with foot traffic. These days were particularly merry. Students on winter break spent their nights hanging out with friends while they counted down the days until the holidays. Colorful Christmas cakes lined storefronts, placed like charms to ward off evil. Huge advertisements adorned the sides of buildings. The station plaza bustled with pop-up stalls. Soujyuro stepped out to the milling crowd and into a phone booth. Safe from the winter wind, the inside seemed warm by comparison. The thought that It would actually be nice to have one in the mountains crossed his mind as he inserted a coin into the phone. He dialed the number from memory, his fingers punching the keys with a somewhat practiced motion. After about 5 seconds, the phone began to ring. Another 5 seconds, another ring. 10 seconds had passed. He gazed through the window at the various signs of the surrounding buildings and marveled at the sheer number of people out and about so early. The number he dialed was that of Tomomaru Tsukiji. The Tsukiji name was well known in Misaki as a distinguished landowning family going back generations. Incidentally, their residence was located in the neighboring town of Yashirogi. A kind, elderly female voice finally replaced the ringtone. After her polite greeting, she handed over the phone to Sojuro's target.
Ohayo, Tobimaru.
Morning, Tomomaru.
はい。おはよ
There, hey, morning. He was still half asleep, or so it sounded to Soujyuro.
一つ相談があるんだけど、いいか
I need to ask you something. Do you got a sec?
ああ、陽気に計らえ。
Speak. His response didn't exactly inspire confidence in Soujyuro, but he cut right to the chase. There was a long pause. It was hard to read at this end of the receiver.
あのな、な単純なことで俺を起こすな。
This is what you want to wake me up for?
いいか、宗次郎。仲が悪ければ遊びに行け。機嫌を取りたきゃいいとこ見せろ。で、それが合わなきゃ早めに手を切れ。俺ができるアドバイスはそんなもんだ。
Listen here, Soujyuro. She's mad at you. Take her out somewhere. Try and butter her up. Show her a good time. If that doesn't do the trick, just cut her loose. What do you want me to say? And with a peace, Tomomaru hung up. It may have been 10 in the morning to Soujyuro, but after dealing with what seemed like a 6 o'clock Tomomaru, all he could do was nod earnestly. He had a feeling his friend had been trying to end the call, but deep down he knew that the advice was in fact sound. I like how much he's like, I don't know what's going on. Maybe Tomomaru would know. It's just really fun to me that like he's like, this doesn't seem like a mage issue and something that I don't know. Maybe my good friend Tomomaru would know about it. After the phone ordeal, Soujyuro finished up his shopping and returned to the mansion just before noon. He was greeted by the sight of Aoko and Alice sitting in a silent gloom. Though he was unsure of the circumstances from the outside looking in, it seemed like the aftermath of an argument. Tastes good at all. It's just water. The silence was as deafening as a blizzard, or rather, the biting cold and stinging wind of it. One might also compare the drawing room to an enormous walk-in freezer. It would not have been surprising to look up and see icicles hanging from the ceiling.
やっぱり、今日もか。
Oh, they're at it again. No. He felt like a zookeeper pained to see the raccoon and penguin, interesting, at each other's throats. In fact, he had seen this literally happen the other day at the zoo janitor job, and now he glanced between them like a zookeeper trying to gauge his animal's temper. Needless to say, the silence meant that they were not fighting at the moment. Dinner served as a respite from this conflict. Soujyuro was oblivious to the circumstances surrounding the quarrel, but their day-in, day-out battles against the mysterious mage was clearly taking a toll.
もっとも、アリスはいつも通りだけど。
That Alice looks anything but grumpy. Across from the quiet and contemplative Aoko, Alice was reading an old book in her lap, as she was accustomed to. The book seemed somewhat heavier than the other ones.
ただいま。煮詰まってるな、ここんところ。
I'm home. Looks like I just missed the discussion. He greeted them as he took off his coat.
煮詰まるぐらい事態が進んでるならまだ面白みもあるんでしょうけどね。
If only discussion implies progress.
今の御用よ、宗十郎。
You're way off, Soujyuro. Without quite knowing what Algo was getting at, Soujyuro quizzically tilted his head. He told himself not to think too hard about it, but it only made him more curious.
煮詰まってるってことはもうじき完成ってことでしょ。
In fact, we're not even close to an agreement.
進展がないって意味合いなら行き詰まってると言うべきね。
If anything, I'd say we debated ourselves into a corner. Seemingly too preoccupied to scold Soujyuro, Alko waved her hand as though shooing off an insect. Oh. But Soujyuro being Soujyuro. Okay, let me start over. Hey, you two. Any progress since last time? Soujyuro held his ground.
宗十郎には関係ないわ。
That's none of your business.
こっちの事情に関しては不可侵だって言わなかった？
What did I tell you? Mage business is not for your ears. Her response was calm but pointed. Surliness was her weapon of choice, and today she seemed determined to swing it at will.
もちろん聞いてる。ところで、お昼はまだだろ?
Yes, I remember. Did you guys eat yet? Soujyuro chose to brush off Alko's attitude. Good strategy, honestly. If Alko's weapon was surliness, Soujyuro's was blitheness. He wielded just enough of it to make Alko flinch.
どうしたの今日は？何かいいことでもあったわけ？
What's with you today? Something nice happen? Soujyuro shook his head.
まだなんだ。じゃあ、ちょっと提案がある。
Not yet, but I do have a proposal for you guys. He dug around to the pocket of his coat, which was now on a hanger. Alko gave him a dubious stare, while Alice's ears perked up at his upbeat tone.
実は今日、給料日だったんだ。お金も入ったことだし、外に遊びに行こう。
Actually, today was payday, which means I have money. We should go out and do something. He spoke with a warm smile as he removed his wallet from his coat pocket. The other two did not know what to make of it.
宗十郎。
Soujyuro? She wanted to take exception with his bright mood, but found herself wrestling with the idea of reacting positively to it. After all, he was making a gesture of good faith to try and make things better with what little funds he had. The thought itself was not a bad one. While there was always the chance that Alice would keep quiet until the slightest thing annoyed her, at which point she would ruin everything, Alko wanted to accept his goodwill. However, she was not in the mood to walk around town with either of the two, nor was the timing ideal.
悪いけど、今忙しいの。暇になったら思い出してあげるから、しばらく我慢して。
Sorry, but I'm kind of busy. I'll take you up on it some other time, though. Just remind me. Alice seemed to have the same response, though wordlessly. Soujyuro wasn't about to be held back by the sullen mood, though.
忙しいって、ここで黙り合ってるだけじゃないか。
Busy doing what? Sitting here in silence?
徹夜漬けの時、気分転換は必要だって言ったのは青崎だろ。 行き詰まったら回れ右して戻らないとどこにも行けない。
Wasn't it you, Aozaki, who said that a change of pace was important when working overnight? Sometimes you need to take one step back to take two steps forward. Soujyuro spoke with unusual confidence as he drew 2 tickets from his wallet and slapped them on the table. At first glance, they looked like advance tickets to a movie, but not quite. They were tickets to a famous aquarium. To get there, they would need to take the rapid train and subway to a city several times more modern than Misaki. It housed not only the biggest shopping mall in the prefecture, but also a multi-purpose auditorium. Set to open next year, designed to host international conferences and stage productions.
それと夜はメシアンでカレーでも食べてくれ。
Oh, and eat some curry at Messian. On me. Oh, that's funny. That's really funny, actually. He was... In order to make them make up, he's sending them both on a date, sans him. That's fun. Saying that, he slapped 2 bills on the table as if he had struck it rich. It was Soujyuro's turn to make dinner tonight after all.
じゃあそういうことで。
Alright, be seeing you. His business concluded, Soujyuro turned his wallet and took back into his coat pocket. It was then that Aoko realized what Soujyuro meant by be seeing you.
ちょっと待った。そういうあんたはどうするのよ。
Wait a minute. You're not coming with us?
今日はアルバイト。
I got work tonight. Soujyuro was almost too quick with his response, helping Aoko to see things for what they really were. Rather than for Sojuro's benefit, this gesture was instead an attempt to ease the tension that had built up between Aoko and Alice. Though, if asked, both girls would tell it to you as an unnecessary gesture. Still... For him to pay this much attention to the household, if anything, gave Aoko a reason to reflect on her own immaturity. Aoko glanced over to the still-seated Alice. At the same time, Alice peeked up at Aoko from behind her book. They kept still, staring at each other.
私は構わないけど、今やれることは全部やってあるし。
I'll go if you go. I'm almost done with my book.
そうね。そういうことならせっかくだし。
Okay, it'd be a waste not to. Aoko stood up from the sofa, resigned to her decision. Soujyuro watched on, with a satisfied smile on his face. "20 minutes later, as Aoko and Alice were done getting ready, Aoko called out to Soujyuro in the drawing room.
それじゃあ出かけてくるから、あんたもバイト。ソジュロ?
Alright, we're leaving now. Soujyuro? Soujyuro was crouched in front of the television, unaware that the two had entered the room.
もしかしてビデオいじってるの?
Are you messing with the VCR?
ああ、ちょうどよかった。青崎、これ。
Oh, hey, good timing. How do I, Pausing his audio-visual struggles, Soujyuro turned forward, around. Oh. Nice. He froze in shock, forgetting what he was about to say.
私たちお言葉に甘えて出かけてくるけど、どうしたのよ一体。棚の後ろに落とし物でもしたの?
You okay? Listen, we're gonna take you up on your offer to go out. Did you drop something behind the TV? Soujyuro appeared to have gone stiff. Ako stared at him curiously. Though Alice silently nodded along with his bizarre reaction. She kept her thoughts to herself.
いや、
No,
なんかこ
it's just... Still gawking, his voice stuck in his throat. He was blissfully unaware that the shock he was experiencing was the direct result of his emotional state.
それじゃわからないってば。
Spit it out already.
まったく落ち着いてるくせに妙に挙動不審なんだから。アリスに煙たがられても仕方ないっていうか。
God, I wish your weird reactions made sense sometimes. Does Alice have something on her face, or...? Alice looked on in silence. He was not confused or in a daydream, that much he could tell. But this frozen look was by all accounts a first for Soujyuro.
それで何かあったの？
So what is it then?
ああ、いや、これなんだけど。
This thingy here.
青崎、ビデオってどう使うんだ？
How do I use it? Oh, that's fine. Shaking his head to regain his composure, Soujyuro pointed to the VCR. Oh, shit. A VHS player sat on the shelf beneath the TV.
何？タイマー録画でもするの？
Guys, he lives in a mountain. Why, do you want to record something? Alko walked over and crouched next to Soujyuro in front of the TV.
いや、木の実からビデオを借りたんだけど、映らない。
No, I just borrowed a video from Kinomi, but it won't play.
まずテレビの電源が入ってない。
Well, for starters, the TV isn't on. With a click, the TV screen flicked to life.
次、チャンネルを外線に合わせて。
Next, you have to switch to the video input.
あら、意外にも真っ黒。木の実くんのことだからテープ頭から録画してると思ったけど。
That's weird. It's all dark. Knowing Kinomi, I'm surprised the video recording doesn't start from the very beginning. During this time period, videotapes were still rather expensive. Therefore, it was only natural for people not want to waste a single second of the tape's 120-minute capacity.
割と趣味には気を使う性格なのね。じゃ、早送りっと。
Especially considering how serious he is about his hobbies. Oh well, I have to fast forward. Alko picked a small remote up and quickly pushed the button marked forward. Let's go to... The VCR beeped in protest. With several clicks and thuds, there was simply an empty whir from within the machine.
壊してないぞ、多分。
Don't look at me, I didn't break it, I think. The vast majority of people who say this are actually very prone to destroying electrical equipment. But that is a separate matter.
おまけにテープが入ってない。
There's nothing in here. So as the words left her lips, it all made sense.
テープ？
Tape? Soujyuro imagined adhesive tape, clearly confused.
宗十郎、木の実くんから何か渡されなかった？
Soujyuro, did Kinomi give you something?
渡されたけど、ほら、テーブルの上。
Oh my god, you didn't even put it in yet. You mean the thing on the table? Though she should have been used to it by now, she got herself wondering if Soujyuro was being stupid deliberately.
木の実くんがなんて言ったか覚えてる？
Soujyuro, what exactly did Kinomi say? Do you remember?
テープ貸してやるから家に帰ったらビデオを見ろと。
Yeah, he said, I'll totally lend you this tape when you get home, just watch the TV.
一番大事な言葉が抜けてたわけね。
Great, so I left out the most important part.
はあ、失望を通り越して怖くなるわ。あっさり順応しているように見えてこれだものね。どんだけ綱渡りな毎日送ってんのよ、あんたは。
Honestly, this is so sad, it's almost scary. This one I thought you were finally adapting. How you make it through a day is a mystery to me. Exasperated, Aoko fetched the tape in question. It was labeled Gaku Gaku Animal Kingdom, African Adventure. Interesting. To Aoko, this knocked Hosuke Kinomi down a level in the ratings file when she kept with the student council.
ね、このテープをデッキに入れて再生すればいいの。爪は折ってないから、録画ボタンだけは押さないようにね。
Okay, you put the tape in the VCR and push play. The tab isn't broken, so just be careful not to hit the record button.
爪とは
What is a tab?
ここ、テープの側面にへこみがあるでしょ。これをカバーしているのが爪。
Right here. See this indent on the side of the tape here? The tab is the little plastic cover.
これを切り取っておくと、もうそのテープは上書き録ができなくなるのよ。
If you snap this tab off, you can't record on the tape anymore.
そうね。例えるなら授業のノート。
How can I explain this? Think of it as a notebook for class.
大事なものだから消しゴムで消えないようにフィキサチーフをかけたっていうか、ヒューマンエラーを物理的に防止するアナログな防御法ってわけ。
It's like a sealant you spray over the page so it can't be erased. Think of it as a physical barrier against common human error. She inserted the tape into the VCR and handed the remote to Soujyuro. Just the small interaction used up a fair bit of Aoko's patience. Completely ignorant to Aoko's feelings, Soujyuro gleefully pressed the play button.
前から危なっかしいと思ってたけど、まさかここまでとはね。時代錯誤にも程がある。
I was afraid we weren't going to make it this far for a second there. It was a bit much, even for someone out of place as you are.
あんた、山で何やってたの？空手家じゃあるまいし、熊を倒す修行でもしてたとか言わないでしょうね。
What were you doing there in the mountains? Don't tell me you were some karate master training against bears or something. Even Soujyuro managed to pick on Aoko's rude tone as he frowned disapprovingly.
それはもしかして俺をバカにしてるのか？
Are you trying to make fun of me?
心外ね。事実バカにしてるんだけど。
You mean just now or all the other times? Aoko answered unapologetically. On the TV, a crocodile's yawning mouth appeared.
そんなバカな話があるもんか。なんでクマを倒すために修行しなくちゃいけないんだ。
Don't be silly. Why would anyone train against bears? They're dangerous. Soujyuro turned towards the TV in a huff. Perhaps because of his rare outburst, as he turned face to face with the gaping maw of a crocodile on the TV, he fell backwards in surprise. Aoko unpursed her lips upon seeing this, delighted. It was relieving to see the boy disarmed.
けど青崎、この機械ずいぶん埃が積もっているけど、掃除はしていないのか？
Hey, Azaki, these machines have gotten kinda dusty. Don't you clean them?
私はあんまり使わないし、アリスは見ないから今までほっぽってただけよ。
Why bother? I hardly ever use them, and Alice doesn't really watch TV.
ダメ元でトレーニング用に買ってもらったんだけど、飽きちゃった。イメージでどうにかできる問題じゃなかったっていうか。
I bought some exercise videos to train with, but got bored of them. I would have thought you actually needed to do the exercise instead of just watching the damn thing. Aka shrugged at her past superficiality. And Soujyuro was led to believe yet another falsehood about modern life, that VCRs would go out of fashion.
それじゃあ留守番お願いね。
Well then, we're off. Try not to burn the place to the
ライ
ground.
ト、本当はないんでしょ？
And in case you were wondering, you don't have work tonight. I know you don't have work tonight. Algo walked out of the drawing room smiling. Her grin was the cheap shot that left Soujyuro speechless. As he scratched his cheek, he was reminded that she was not someone to be trifled with. After watching the end of the drama between her housemates, Alice made her for the reception area as well. Left alone in the room, Soujyuro took a seat on the sofa. Well, it's certainly not easy making everything run smoothly around these parts. Till they came back, he could enjoy his crocodile watching in peace. They took the subway from Misaki for 6 stations. From there, they rode another 3 stops by express train. After about an hour, Aoko and Alice arrived at Arasaka Station. While Misaki City was a mixture of old and new architecture, Arasaka was a brand new town that was built in accordance with recent government ordinances. It was as though an entire town full of tall buildings sprouted up in the middle of nowhere. It was near the end of December in the middle of winter break. Even the bustling plaza in Misaki was quiet compared to Arasaka in the evening. Whether it was the huge mall full of countless specialty stores or the crowded multi-purpose auditorium, there really was something for everyone here. For that reason, beyond its local residents, Arasaka Station was crowded with people from far and wide.
へえ、あれが新しい演劇ホールか。県内最大のコンサートホールらしいけど、中はどうなってんだろう。なんか周りのビルより背が高くない？
Ooh, this must be their fancy new performance arts center. It's supposed to have the biggest concert hall in the prefecture. I wonder what it's like inside. Look how much grander it is than the buildings around it. They made their way to the aquarium, weaving through the crowds. Aoko might have been used to city life, but Alice was silently anxious. People passing by must have thought the pale girl out of place, which Alice happened to agree with.
来年夏にはビッグアーティストも来日予定。ってピンクパールが入ってない？ちょっとこれ日本初ライブよ、アリス。
Oh, it says a big artist is coming summer of next year. Oh my god, it's Pink Trudy! Alice, it says it'll be her first live appearance in Japan. Aoko exclaimed, overcome by excitement. This kind of pop rock band was right up Aoko's alley, but naturally Alice didn't seem very interested.
それよりセレモニーに予定されてるポーランド楽団の方が驚きだと思うけど。
I'm more amazed by the Polish orchestra they've invited to open for them.
随分とお金がかかっているようね。
Must be costing them a fortune.
ほんと懲りない人。
How incorrigible.
あ、
Aoko cursed under her breath before hurrying them along. Underneath the construction map read, with the support of the Koanji group. Ah, I see. The aquarium they were looking for was on the top floor of a massive building. Maybe it was because it was no longer a new attraction, or perhaps because the first floor cinema drew the crowds. With only a few people scattered around the entrance, the atmosphere inside was very calm. It wasn't quiet, but desolate, and far removed from the hustle and bustle outside. Perhaps they were going for a museum-like mood. I imagine Alice is much more comfortable here like this. Alice quietly caught her breath, staring in awe. She was like a child seeing the circus for the first time. Her eyes went wide in anticipation and wonder.
お、気に入ったみたいね。よかったよかった。
It's to the lady's liking, I see. Good, good.
宗十郎おすすめの物件は気難しいアリスさんのお眼鏡にかないましたか。
I guess Soujyuro's idea wasn't totally off the mark then, huh? Aoko found herself smiling as well. There was a certain joy in seeing Alice's wonderment.
別に屋上にある水族館が珍しいだけ。
Not really. I just find rooftop aquariums to be kind of novel. According to the guide on the wall, the entrance to the aquarium was nearly as big as the Koanji Mansion's foyer. The outdoor penguin show was apparently suspended due to the star penguin Flippy undergoing treatment for an injury. Unfortunate. It was an unfortunate state of affairs, but one that didn't stop Alice from continuing to read over the guide. Apparently, she was quite familiar with the penguin shows. Then... Can't believe it? Oh, Alice quietly whimpered as if holding back a scream.
何々、どうしたの？
Hey, what's wrong? Aoko said, still looking at the floor plan. It was rare to see Alice getting this emotional outside of the mansion. For some reason, she was trembling. Nothing seemed terribly off about the aquarium's offerings.
ゾウガメがいない。
There's no giant tortoises.
え？
No what?
話が違うわ、青子。どうしてゾウガメの展示スペースがないの？
It's all wrong, Aoko. Why are there no giant tortoise exhibits?
どうしてって、そりゃゾウガメぐらいになったらもうほとんど陸上生物だからじゃない？大きいし。
Why? I don't know. Are giant tortoises even aquatic? Maybe it's because they take up too much space.
なんで？ペンギンはいるのに不公平よ。
Why though? They have penguins. It's not fair.
イルカだって許せないわ。
Look, they even have a dolphin. This is absurd. It was a bitter pill for Alice to swallow. The idea that they did not have a giant tortoise, despite having a dolphin, had Alice's eyes hot with indignation.
ああ、言われてみれば確かに。
Now that you mention it.
ペンギンとイルカは定番なのになぜゾウガメだけ外されるのか。ちょっとした日常の落とし穴ね。
Not to be playing along. If penguins and dolphins are standard fare, you'd think they'd at least have a giant tortoise. What were they thinking? Aoko said, certain something like a giant tortoise would be boring and unpopular. She was sensible enough to read the room, however, and kept her thought to herself.
こっち。チケットはあるから、そっちに並ぶことはないわよ。
Come on, Alice. We have tickets so we can skip the line. A few moments after the giant tortoise fiasco, presenting tickets they received from Soujyuro, they headed towards the once popular entrance. From the entrance gate, the corridor stretched in the dark hallway, completely illuminated in blue. Figures and faces became mere silhouettes in the darkness. It was no darkness born from magecraft, but a man-made area of twilight. A world of shadow and blue, the only light being from the illuminated tanks. The two witches continued walking down the artificial ocean corridor. Water tanks seemed like windows into hundreds of different worlds. Each had their own separate temperature and environment. It's as if they were snapshots to the same place at different times. Mesmerized by the refracting images of the ocean floor, the housemates' conversation grew sparse.
そういえば、アリスの家ってあれだけ大きいのにプールとかないわよね。なんで？
Hey, this reminds me, Alice. You have this huge mansion without a pool. What's up with that?
呆れた。水槽を見て何を想像したのかは聞かないけど。
Figures, you'd come to inquire. That's what you think about.
必要ないものを欲しがるのはあなたの悪い癖ね、青子。
Wanting superfluous things is a bad habit of yours, Alko.
必要ないってことはないんじゃない？水遊びはこっちよりそっちの方が馴染み深いでしょうに。
Ah, a pool isn't superfluous. Besides, aren't pools more common in England than Japan?
あ、もしかしてアリス、泳げない？
Or could it be that you can't swim?
泳ぎの経験ぐらいあるわ。夏は湖で何度も遊んだもの。
I've spent more than enough time in a swimsuit. I often swam in the lake as a child.
私、大型のセントバーナードにだって負けなかったのよ。
I never once lost a race to our big Saint Bernard.
セントバーナードってアリスさんたらもしかして息継ぎとか苦手かしら？
Saint Bernard? Wait, don't tell me. You had trouble with your breathing, didn't you?
この世で最も聞きたくない言葉の一つね。
Ah, spare me the swimming lesson.
クロールとかバタフライとか。発明した人は半魚人になればいいの。
Those sound like salty johns to me. Roll, butterfly. The people who invented those would probably have fish anyway. Clack, clack, clack. Their pace was more delicate and solemn than a stroll along the beach. It was a sort of absent-minded chat one might hear between girls anywhere in the world. That had been simultaneously to Japan and England. And here, the only thing to do was to look at blue screens.
でも驚いた。あんなにあっさり館の留守を任せるなんて。あいつがこっそり西館に入るかもとか考えなかった？
I'm surprised you were willing to leave him alone in the house. You're not worried to go sleeping in the West Wing, are you?
彼、そこまで考えなしじゃないでしょ。
He can't possibly be that foolish.
それに。
Besides,
それに、それならそれで手間が省けてせいせいした？
it would save us the trouble if he did.
そうじゃなくて、
It's not that.
一度交わした約束は破らないんじゃないかって。
I just don't think he's the type to break his word. That he was not. Alko nodded, her long hair waving back and forth. A certain gleam of surprise in her eyes. Onward, they meandered through the next aquatic world. Clack, clack, clack.
ところで水族館は初めて？
By the way, is this your first time in an aquarium?
これで2度目。昔友達と2人で行ったきりよ。
Second, I went with a friend long ago.
嘘、本
No way. Really? You had friends?
ほんと6年以上も前、まだイギリスにいた頃。
Yes, really. More than 6 years ago, when I was still in England.
当？そうじゃなくて友達の方。あんた友人はい
Yeah,
な
I
いって
knew
言っ
it.
たじゃない。
No, I mean the friend part. I thought you said you didn't have any friends.
昔の話よ。私たち同じ名前だったの。
That was a long time ago. We even had the same name.
それが縁でよく遊んでいたけれど、長続きはしなかったわ。
We used to play all the time, but we fell out of touch.
そっか、あっちじゃそう珍しくない名前なのね、アリスって。こっちで言うところの涼子とか花子みたいなもの？
That's right. Alice must be a pretty common name over there. Here it's all Yoko or Hanako and such.
ええ、青子とか赤子とか黒子とか白子みたいなものよ。
Indeed. Old names referencing colors like Aoko, Akako, Hiroko, or Shiroko.
後半はみんな普通名詞なんですけど。
They do all end with ko, don't they? Well, that's like girl, right? To each their own. Society of names. The swirling of the waters was dizzying. Much like the hectic world of humans. Their hands swung back and forth as they walked towards the next world.
そういう青子は彼をどうするつもりなの？
Incidentally, Aoko, what exactly is your plan for him?
どうって、今の一件を終わらせるまでおとなしくしてもらって、落ち着いたら忘却のルーン探してなかったことにするだけでしょ？これ以上迷惑かけられないわよ。
Well, once our current issue is resolved and things calm down, I'll find the rune for erasing his memory and he'll forget we ever existed. He won't bother much for much longer.
それは私に？
A bother to whom? Me?
ああ、うん、そうに決まってるじゃない。ところでこの魚綺麗よね。なんか泳ぎたくなってくる。アリス、来年の夏は海にでも行ってみよっか。
Oh, yeah, obviously. Wow, this fish is really pretty. Makes me want to swim. Hey, we should go to the beach next summer.
海ってあの海？
The beach. The beach. The beach? You mean by the ocean?
もちろん。夏の海って言ったら灼熱の太陽と砂浜、水平線に沈む夕日ってね。
Of course. You know, fun under the hot summer sun, sand between your toes, watching the sunset on the horizon.
今年は行けなかったけど、来年は一緒に行かない？
We couldn't go this year, so why don't we go together next year?
呆れた。本当、あなたって楽観的。
Your optimism is exhausting.
でも、そうね。夏まで生きていられたのなら、そういうこともあるかもしれない。
But that does sound nice. If we manage to survive until next summer, that is. Clack, clack, clack. Two girls journeyed to the next oceanic wonderland, mutually taking in the sights. The visitors to these winter waters had begun to leave, satisfied by their tour. The sound of their footsteps heralded their farewell. An hour into the wayfaring sea voyage, losing themselves in the maze-like corridors of seemingly endless exhibits, they somehow found themselves on the next floor. Alco had heard that the aquarium was situated on the top floor, and was shocked to find that there was yet another above it. It was likely by design that the actual top floor could only be accessed from within the aquarium. Moments of intrigue such as this were what attractions were made for.
Alice?
Alice? Turning this way and that, she found Alice had disappeared. Her housemate had just been there, however, and Alco took to looking for her. Oh, that's right. She soon found her nearby. Her white overcoat shone brightly in front of the dimly lit exhibit. She was staring motionless into the water tank. She almost looked to be staring through it, as though distracted by something.
どうしたのアリス？気分でも悪くなった？
What's wrong, Alice? Are you feeling all right? She spoke, hoping to snap her out of it. Alice's typically cold aura seemed to have all but left her.
珍しい魚でもいた？それ、余り物を端に追いやりましたって感じの水槽だけど。
Is it a rare fish? Looks like this tank they use for all the fish that doesn't fit anywhere else. Alice gave a non-committal response. Just ahead of her gaze was a single shadow.
Wow, mambo!
Wow, ocean sunfish! Alice remained motionless, unresponsive to Alco's sarcasm. She stood in silence, watching the poor little fish drifting listlessly in the tank where they put the fish that did not fit anywhere else, here at the end of the hall. But lately, sunfish were not especially pleasant to look at. When looking at one, it begged the question of what direction evolution wanted to take with it. It looked like it swam using rudder-like fins on its top and bottom, but it lacked the grace of the other fish. To Alco, its eyes, body, and strange movements made it for an awkward creature. But
ねえアリス、あっちの水槽見ない？ジンベエザメの回遊とか見目麗しいわよ。
Alice, let's check out the whale shark exhibit over there. Sounds super exciting, don't you think? Alice, unmoved, fixated on the sunfish. It clumsily drifted around its tank, occasionally bumping into the glass as it turned.
青子、この子、泳ぐのが下手だわ。
Alice, this little one can't swim well. Alice extended her finger towards the glass, then retracted it, feeling childish.
ま、いっか。愛嬌だけはあるしね、マンボ。
Well, whatever. I suppose sunfish have their own charm. Didn't seem like Alice was going to budge. Resigning herself, Alco stayed with Alice while she stared at the cushion-shaped fish.
へえ、マンボウってフグ目だったんだ。何々？マンボウのメスは一度に3億個の卵を海中に放出する地上で最も多くの卵を産む脊椎動物である。なるほどね。
They have eyes like pufferfish, It also says here that the females can produce more eggs than any other known vertebrate, up to 3 million at a time. Interesting.
他の魚たちにとっちゃ格好の餌になるから多く産むこと、それ自体が生存のための手段になるわけか。
Babies become prey to other fish, so in a way, giving birth to so many is a means of survival for them. The Alcos seem to be taken in by the biological details of the fish. Alice really couldn't have cared less. She was lost in the ebb and flow of emotions between wonder and woe, with every clumsy bump of the fish into the glass. Out of nowhere, she softly spoke.
さっきの話だけど。
About a fall.
さっきの話って何？
Huh? Floor? What?
彼について留守を任せるとかそういうの。
About him. About leaving the house in his cab. Seemed like Alice had returned to her normal self. There was that cold aura. Whether inside the mansion or out, that stubborn chill that pushed people away was back.
私の気が変わったわけじゃないわ。
I haven't changed my mind.
依然として彼のことはわからないもの。わからない人をどうやって信頼すればいいの？
He is still a complete unknown. How could I trust someone I know nothing about?
まあね。でもじゃあどうして？
I guess. But then, why let him...
青子のことはわかるわ。あなたはいつも正しい選択をする。だから青子を信じる彼の人間性は信じてもいい。
Because I know you, Alco. You always make the right decision. So, I'm trusting your judgment on this matter. It was true. She didn't know Soujyuro, nor had any intention to. But because of her trust in Alco, she could trust in Alco's decision to allow him to stay. It seemed Alice was challenging her own feelings. She said she couldn't trust anyone she didn't know. In other words, she wished to trust him, and in order to do so, she needed to know more about him.
口にするのはなんだから突っ込まないけどね。
Well, I don't really know how to respond to that, Alice.
それより何？そんなに私のこと信頼してくれてたの？アリス？
Also, I had no idea you trusted me that much, Alice.
ええ。行為はともかく信頼だけはしているわ。
I do trust you. I may not be fond of you, but I trust you.
だって共犯者でしょ。私たち。
We are, after all, partners in crime, are we not? Her white coat swayed to and fro. Just like that, their short excursion had come to an end. Straight ahead was the exit back to the real world. Step away from the exhibit and step towards becoming better roommates.
優しい顔をしているのに傷だらけね。
Kind face. So clearly scarred. One last small whisper. And with that, she bid farewell to the lonely figure in the tank. Sun set early during winter. By 4 in the afternoon, it had already fallen below the horizon. Evening seemed to arrive at the mansion earlier than in the city.
なるほど。君の生態はよくわかった。
I see. Now I know all about crocodiles. Soujyuro sat alone, sipping his warm tea in the chilly room. He relaxed on the couch, staring out of the window, having had his fill of crocodiles. Once he sprawled out on the sofa, his body refused to move. Maybe he'd always wanted to try it. After 3 straight hours of crocodile watching, he intently pondered what it would be like to laze there for the remainder of the day like a reptile. Just as he was considering the opportunity to nap, weird, until Akko and Alice returned, an unnatural noise echoed through the halls of the mansion. Sluggishly, he rose from all fours to a bipedal state, as if undergoing an evolution of his own. It was a knocking sound that repeated itself regularly, with patient pauses in between. He recognized the cadence from something he'd experienced at his apartment before. Newspaper salesman? Making for the foyer, Soujyuro was impressed that they hiked all the way up the hill. The knocking resounded eerily. Without a doorbell of any kind, visitors had no choice but to rap on the door using whatever they had in hand. It would take a literal iron fist to produce the din Soujyuro heard now. From his position in the hall, the front door looked like an ornately built fortification. The sturdy double doors looked as though they could withstand an onslaught of blows. But now, they rattled in protest from the repeated knocking. Whoever the visitor was, they seemed determined to breach the castle gate by force if its defender refused to sally forth. Fortunately for them, Soujyuro was sympathetic, having experienced selling newspapers himself.
Hi, 今開けます.
Yeah, just a second. He knew what it was like to be in those shoes, so he was unsurprised by their persistence. Ah. Just wondering if that's what it was.
Oh.
There stood the second surprise of the day. Soujyuro was struck speechless. He was greeted by a young woman who hardly looked the part of a newspaper hawker. Standing in the courtyard against the dusk-lit horizon, she appeared more at home in the European mansion than Soujyuro did. She carried a dignified air in spite of her dainty frame. While a tad shorter than Soujyuro, she was tall for her sex. Her green clothes were subtly colored yet flashy, and clearly inspired by foreign fashion. She seemed prim and proper, yet bold. Though vaguely garish, her appearance spoke of strength and confidence. Soujyuro knew all too well that such a woman was not to be trifled with. Only, unlike the one he knew, the stranger appeared more friendly than intimidating. Perhaps it was her short hair that made her look approachable. Bright and brown, it stopped just above the nape of her neck. Soujyuro silently thought that it was a shame that she hadn't grown it out. She looked at him and offered a smile. Despite seeming visibly older than him, this made her appear impish and cute. Soujyuro reacted with suspicion, knowing better by now than to fall for a charming smile. At any rate, it was rude to stare.
どちら様でしょうか?
Can I help you? And I think there was a part of me that wanted to wait for the next story chapter, but I think I'm going to leave it there. One, because I like to leave off on cliffhangers because I think it's funny, but also I'm falling asleep. I'm not quite at the level where I'm like, but I want to preempt that a little bit. So, here we are. Ooh. I really should get like a brain potion here again pretty soon. Although I don't know if they ever helped. Really. The falling asleep happens so rarely, and sometimes it doesn't even... Who's to say? Anyway. I'm sure there was some stuff that I wanted to talk to you about, but once again, I do not remember any of it. So, hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, rest of your week. Hope you're all taking care of yourselves. And I hope you take some time to do something cool and outside of your normal routine. It's good to get like a change of pace every now and again. So, yeah. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Bye.